Are you loud, Jim? Is he on? Turn it all the way up.
Hi, Jim, are you on the phone?
Yes.
Hey,
Okay.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, you guys just came,
Morning.
right, this is Suzanne, you guys just made it in time. We're ready to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and really quick. You're going to have roll call?
Howard?
Here.
Salich?
Here.
Collins? Harris? Moran? Parker? Here. Rice? Here. Tumanello?
Here.
Hart?
Here.
You have a quorum.
I'm here.
Steve, would you like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Okay, and just have approval of minutes.
So moved.
And second, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval, okay, minutes. Let's go right on to, we're gonna, can we, right, can you go ahead and speak? Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, thank you, welcome to our meeting. Sorry, it was a
Thank
little
you.
chaotic there for a second, we should have got that out of the way.
All right, well, we thought that, we'd kind of give a brief overview of what's going on in Washington, and I'll let Jim start with that, and then I can talk specifically to the PILT issue that I know you guys wanted to get some more information on, and then we can take it from there if you have any questions. So Jim, I'll just turn it over to you quickly, and you give a kind of a quick recap of what's going on.
Sure. Well, as you know, Congress is in recess right now. They broke at the end of September. Before they left town, they passed a short-term continuing resolution, which is keeping the government funded through the first week of December. They will come back after the election in a lame duck session, and will have to enact a long-term funding bill for the balance of the federal fiscal year. They will possibly take up other legislation, but I think some of that might be impacted by the outcome of the election. One of the big issues that many people are hoping that they would take up is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the free trade agreement that the U.S. signed with a number of Asian countries, but that has been controversial. So it's unclear if that would come up. There's also been some talk of doing some tax issues, possibly the Marketplace Fairness Act, and a few other items. But it's still very fluid right now, up in the air as to what they will have the appetite to tackle and lay down. The only thing that we know that they will have to do and must do is provide long-term funding for the balance for the federal agencies. Brett, do you want to talk about PILT?
Yeah. So you guys are all aware, I know that the National Association of Counties this is a prominent issue to them, and it always has been. Currently.
Wait, really quick, Brett, can you give a quick description of what we're discussing here? Because I don't know if all of our members,
okay,
the committee.
So payment in lieu of taxes is a program that was set up in the late 1970s, and the purpose of it is to offset costs incurred by counties for services provided to federal employees and families and the public and users of public land. The reason why it was set up is because local governments aren't able to levy taxes on the property values of the products derived from federal lands. And you guys in Will County have some federal land in Medewin, and that's why you receive some of this funding. And it was fully funded in fiscal year 2016, and that funding was roughly $450 million. And that was part of the fiscal year 2006 omnibus bill. Yeah, 450 million, I should say. And that was part of the Omnibus Appropriations Act that was passed last September. And then this year, the Department of Interior, which runs the program, is estimating that the need for PILT will be roughly 480 million, and that's for fiscal year 2017, and that'll fully fund the program. And right now we're in good shape because both the House Appropriations, Interior Appropriations bill has been passed out in committee and has been passed out in the Senate, and it's fully funded at 480 million. And it's looking like, as Jim kind of indicated, that they're going to do a larger bill at the end of the year in the lame duck. And so this program should be that omnibus that, we imagine that the final federal funding will be part of. So, that's looking pretty good right now.
Okay. I know, and unfortunately, Mr. Mustis isn't here, but I know Jim really wanted to make sure, because we've always had this on our agenda, but he just wanted to make sure that the committee was aware and where we are on an update as well. So, does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah, not a lot going on, most before our election.
Could I add?
Right. And I just wanted to add, I know you guys had other stuff to get through, but Jim and I are looking forward to coming to the county after the election and talking with you folks about the priorities for fiscal year 2018. It's hard to believe that it's already there, but we always want to plan ahead and give ourselves enough time to really kind of think about the issues in Washington, and so we'll keep planning out, meeting with agency folks, and we're available as well to talk to anyone, any of you all at SCP.
Okay, Brett.
To that end, I would also just add that there's a lot of discussion taking place in Washington now about the possibility of a major infrastructure bill next year. Both the presidential candidates have made that a priority in their platforms, and there are a lot of groups and organizations at DC, including the counties, who are already starting to put together ideas and proposals for Congress consideration. So we're hopeful that would be a big opportunity for next year and would help with Will County's major infrastructure projects and needs.
Jim, Herb Brooks, Jim. Can you explain a little more about lame duck session? We hear a lot of that. We know we're in the midst of it. We know the president has come to his term. But what can be passed? What can be discussed? And what is productive in a lame duck session? You know our priorities for Will County. So what does that mean to us?
Well, I think I don't think it's really going to be clear what's possible until after the election. It could be a very short lame duck if the two parties can come together on the budget. I mean, that's the big issue. And there are major differences over funding and revenue. So that's going to have to be taken care of, that we know. And, depending upon how long that takes, I mean, the longer that they're in session, the more possibilities for taking on other issues. I don't think that there'll be any major new initiatives in a lame duck. I think it'll be taking care of spending, taking care of some of the issues that Congress has already addressed, like the Corps of Engineers funding bill,
right.
Act. That's something that we expect will be conferenced and completed in a lame duck. There's been a lot of talk.
That's after December, right?
Marketplace Fairness Act. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jim, we'll also, with the, when you were saying about the Army Corps, that's the WRDA bill. And it's a force reserve issue, so everyone knows. And we're actually going to put this on your ad hoc committee next month so we can kind of fill everybody in. But we're in a really good crossroads right now that we could possibly have that situation resolved from this bill. So really quick, Bob, and then Steve.
Good morning, Jim and Brett. A couple issues that I'd like to discuss is, number one, Will County actually is a pipeline for commerce. I mean, basically, we move a lot of commerce through the county because of the location of the lake. Basically, this is a logical area. We do use different types of modes of transportation. Now, one that is a concern right now is basically the Brandon locks. Currently over there, the Brandon locks, I believe that they need to be updated. When you talk about fixing locks, whether it's on the Mississippi River, Illinois River, or wherever they might be, basically you're talking billions of dollars, not millions, but billions. And it almost, I've been kind of following that issue. Along that line is there really any kind of hope for the future to actually get something going on this? I think that these are one of the issues that we actually need to take care of. And when they throw 100 million there or 200 million, and basically now what they're doing is just basically providing pools there behind the lock so that you can actually back up the barges and store the barges there. So I just think that down the road, I think this could be catastrophic at one point in time when we can't move commerce up and down the rivers. So that's one of the issues that has to do a lot with us seeking out the funding. The other problem that we have right now is currently with the state of Illinois. In the state of Illinois, due to its inactivity, to be kind, basically I feel as if when we're out in Washington lobbying for federal dollars, if the state's not pulling its weight or doesn't get its act together, we're going to jeopardize future funding. Now, just because the funding doesn't come today or tomorrow or the next week, that basically creates a situation where we believe that it really doesn't hurt at this point in time, but it does, because we're looking a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years down the road. So again, I would hope that in the future we get this straightened out, but at the same time, maybe you could provide us a short list of the funding that could be jeopardized within the next year and a half, 2 years, so that we can pass it out to our board members. And when they are talking to the state legislators, both new and old, that we can express our concerns on this. So, but do you see any hope in the future, though, as far as with the locks, as far as possible funding for that?
Well, I can't address it specifically, only to say that in consideration of an infrastructure bill next year, all of the various proposals that have been floated have been across all types of infrastructure, not just transportation. Recently, there was an organization that came out, Center for American Progress in D.C., that called for a $500 billion investment in infrastructure, and that included locks and dams and sewer and water and utilities and transportation, highways, bridges, public transportation. So I can't say for sure, Bob, but I can say that I think that there's a growing recognition, not only in Washington, but around the country, that we have underinvested in all types of infrastructure for a long time. And, it's going to take a long time to catch up, but I'm hopeful that next year Congress will tackle that. As far as, the state of Illinois, you guys are kind of judge on that, and I have, I would just say that hopefully a lot of these issues addressed after the election, and if Congress does take up a major infrastructure bill next year, it's going to take time for that to go through the legislative process, and hopefully Illinois will be going through their own processes at the same time, so that if a federal opportunity or bill is enacted, that there would be the necessary resources at the state level to manage those programs.
Great.
I'll just add to what Jim said. In terms of the locks, I agree that people realize this isn't millions, this is billions, and it's all over the country, and there's serious need everywhere. They just recently, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, finally increased the Inland Waterway Trust Fund, which money had been increased for years. Now, does that resolve the issues, no, but it does increase funding a little bit. And then in the, hopefully the next word of bill that we're looking, that may get passed in, the lame duck, there's increased funding, but there's also a new loan program, created called the Water Infrastructure Funding Loan Program, or WIFIA. And, that's a possibility. I know you're more interested in grants, but sometimes, very low interest, loans can be beneficial as well. So, as Jim said, I think everyone understands, infrastructure is a top priority. Unfortunately, there hasn't been the political will to put it in the forefront all the time. But we're hopeful that, the campaigns have been talking about infrastructure spending, and we continue to push more in Washington to address that issue. And I feel like our delegation certainly understands it, but we need to continue to tell that message and explain why it's so important to the county.
Thank you.
Steve, did you have?
Yeah, I had a question. The amount of debt that our country's going to is somewhere between 20 and 23 trillion, and it seems like nobody's talking about, making that end. And I'm wondering if anybody is planning after the election putting forth some kind of bill to reduce the amount of debt we have, because as the debt increases, there's a point in time where all the people in my district and Will County are going to really feel the pain. Because you can't just keep spending money, even though all these projects are needed. They need to find some way of doing it.
Kind of repeat your question. I'm hearing some background noise.
Oh, all right.
He just wanted to know if there was a plan for any of this debt release.
To stop raising the debt ceiling all the time to pay for all these much-needed projects. I look at, I don't want to say what to do because you guys know better than me, but just look at foreign aid. We support all these foreign countries that don't like us, yet we let our country deteriorate. So that's why I was wondering if anybody is talking about that.
And Steve, we'll be able to get more into the federal agenda and what we're going to be doing more so into the future right now, because we're going to need every single minute before you guys get to land use, and that's an excellent question we're all very concerned with, but these guys could go in on a 10-minute rant of really what they would like and what we would like, and we are going to have that time for federal, okay? But thank you. Yeah, so if we could kind of think about that for a little bit, guys. We have one more question, right?
Thank you.
And then,
good morning, Ray Manello here. I have a question for you regarding the TPP. Being cognizant of the position that we're in Will County with the largest inland port in North America and the amount of trade that flows through our area, can you break down in a couple minutes just what the TPP, if it would be good or bad for us, and eliminate the political BS that we hear, the finger pointing and all this stuff? I'd like to know how this agreement is going to positively or negatively affect Will County.
and TPP stands
The
for?
Trans-Pacific
Okay.
Trade.
Well, I can only speak on a macro level. I haven't seen any real analysis of how it would directly impact Will County, but obviously it will increase trade, and it will increase both exports and imports going both ways from the U.S. to Asia and return. And I know that Will County, already benefits from that. Obviously, there's a lot of imports coming in from Asia that land at Will County and the two intermodals, and now there's a lot of grain going back to Asia. So on a macro level, I would think it would be a very positive thing for Will County.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for calling in. We just wanted to hear your voices and make sure everything is still out there. We'll be in more contact as well with this, with the WRDA bill, and hopefully, like I said, next month we can go more of an information piece for the rest of our board over at the for the Forest Reserve. So
Very
we
good.
have something very
Thank
exciting.
you so much, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
day, everyone. Morning, afternoon. Take care.
Okay. You want to Mr. Hassard, sit up there. We're going to talk about our priorities. Just let's Dawson. We were talking about that a little bit. All right. Okay, so we thought we would get somewhat on an early start, I think early, it's average time, for our 2017 legislative agenda for our priorities for next year. I have to say, and I am going to highlight this, and Amber and I were talking about this last week. Do you realize we're one of the very few counties that every single session we get something passed that not only benefits us, but I think it benefits counties throughout the whole state. So thank you. I wanted to just highlight that because not only do we have our consultants do that, in fact, I've got with our priorities that we have in front of us right now, but there is also, I'm sure, an umpteen amount of possibilities and bills that are there that they have blocked that would hurt us and other counties throughout the state. So thank you. And that doesn't necessarily, this is thin. There's not a lot going on in Illinois down in Springfield, but Will County is very vocal. Thanks to Curry and Hassard, they've been wonderful representatives of us, of all of us. There's a couple things that are going to be going on. I know the hot issues are going to be, frankly, you can talk about maybe, I know last year, because it was a 2-year, but now we're coming up to that 2-year with and I see Dean here, with electronic recycling. So that's going to be back up and being a very much of a hot issue. If we can kind of get a quick where we're at there, I know that's going to be one of our big flag focals, as well as that. And Jim Eustace and I were sitting down, we were talking about maybe, some direction and where we're going, and I know, Mr. Brooks, you'll 100% agree. We really, this year too, would like to kind of maybe focus, and I'd like to feel of the committee with this groundwater monitoring. I'm not saying that we put it off onto the side, but I know with this electronic recycling, there's been a lot of focal on that. Dean, you can come up to it. Sure. But this is something that, and I don't want to say revisit, because we always have, but we haven't, I don't really think have had that strong arm that I would like to have see us in.
Can I say, Mr. Hassard, that the CCD issue has still never been really resolved in Springfield.
Well,
as far as I can see.
Our form of the CCD issue has not been resolved to our liking. That we did 2 years ago, we passed legislation that put, and Dean can speak to this better, put more parameters on clean construction demolition debris fills, where they had to do more testing, they had to do pre-testing and whatnot. But our groundwater monitoring has never risen to the top. We've gotten a tremendous amount of pushback from a lot of different sources. In particular, because of our location here in Will County having more facilities than any other part of the state, it's been much more of a high priority for the county than other counties who maybe have 0 fills or potential fills or limited amount of fills. And then unfortunately, in good and bad, we border Cook County, which has a prohibition on these type of facilities. So now we become a receiving end of it. So there's a lot of pressure, political pressure, to make sure that we don't stop that flow of where they get rid of their stuff. Unfortunately, it ends up.
Can you highlight that again and say that? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that when you say get rid of a lot of stuff.
Well,
this is ridiculous.
Because of Chicago and the age of Chicago and that, a lot of redevelopment's happening, a lot of buildings are being torn down, a lot of places for this debris to go to, and there's a limited amount of, what was the deal, the silver shovel scandal up in Chicago, where they're just kind of dumping things in lots and, just randomly dumping. Became very prevalent, so, they took action, unfortunately, because we're so close in the southern part of and the northern part of the
southern part of the county, of Cook County, we become, and we have so many quarries, and we have so many reclamation areas being refilled, we become the receiving end of it. So Cook County is, we become, and I'm not sure if DuPage even has any. They have none either. So if you look at our situation, DuPage, Cook, we have, unfortunately have the facilities, fortunately and unfortunately. They serve a purpose, no doubt, for our communities, but they also, we become the dumping ground.
I have to say, you know, and I'm going to go on a little bit of I'm going to get on the soapbox. You know, when we cited our landfill, Prairie View, the federal government put something in there to say, you will not become the regional dumping ground. You will not become the regional. You will not take trash from outside of Will County. My understanding now is CCD, they're barging this stuff in from other places, not just Cook County. It's now being barged in.
I'm not aware of that. We did check on that. There was an allegation of that. So far, we don't know. I'm not saying that that's not true, but so far we haven't found it.
Look, not only do they jeopardize our environment, we don't get any money from this. They should at least pay what they're paying in a landfill. Why is this free dumping? Free dumping in Will County. I think that, you know, we need to continue to make an issue out of it. I think we need to tell them, give us the revenue, we'll do the monitoring ourselves. You know, this idea that, so, look, it's so cheap to just dump, and we get nothing. You know, I think we should, here again, maybe go out and make a case for different fees. I think we can tell them, you know, if the problem is economics for groundwater monitoring, fine, we'll pay for it. Well, let's just take that away. If that's the
liability
issue.
is probably the bigger question when it comes to.
They don't want to find out.
Well, I understand that, but the excuse that, yeah, we don't want the liability of contaminating your water, because we know we're gonna contaminate it. I mean, that's really what they're saying. So, but what they use is, oh, the cost is too great. Well, if it's a cost issue, Will County will pay for the monitoring.
And I think
100% of it.
we do have,
Well,
Oh, no.
If you want to do it, that's.
That's right, because if that's the excuse,
If you need to.
then we'll monitor it. But I also think we should get nothing less than we get from our regulated landfill. Because we need to start calling what they are. They're unregulated, unprotected landfills created by the state of Illinois. And I'm not so sure, my understanding there has been some changes at the IEPA, maybe a little more sympathetic to our cause and so forth. So I think there is a different administration in than when this started. I think we need to appeal directly to the Rauner administration, not just the legislature. And I think we need to give this really a full court press before our water is contaminated.
We do need to add two more things, though, which we've been pushing lately, which we don't have on the agenda here. One is until we are monitoring, or if you can't monitor that groundwater because it's not going out, it's not relevant, we need to beef up that discharge permit, that MPD has permit, so we know what's going out, because that's what's being sent out all the time, constantly. So we need to make sure that's done. The other thing is, it's happening right here in Will County, is there is a contractor that is filling in hillsides, and they're skirting all these regulations. And they do not have to test their hillsides. And there is a provision in the law that allows that. So they're not even doing what a CCD site would do. So we need to close that loophole too. I'm just throwing that in there.
I mean, I know
So
they're
that while
saying-
we're beefing this thing up, I want to make sure that we had those two requirements.
That is legal?
Well, this stuff is really dangerous to Will County. You know, maybe all of us sitting in this room won't see the effects of it, but I guarantee you, your grandchildren will. And the whole Will County will become a brown site because we have nothing but contaminated water here.
there's two things that I think proactively we can do as a county. First of all, the legislation is, we've been trying, this is not like it hasn't been tried and attempted. In fact, the pushback is greatly, not only from the aggregate industry, from the people who own the quarries. We even get pushback from our own state agencies sometimes to use it. So it's been, and then you throw in the, other factors involved. The one thing that I would suggest is that we've got a fill up in Romeoville that has groundwater monitoring.
It does, but what's happened is until the fill level reaches the level of the groundwater.
But it does have ground.
Yes, we do have
Right,
some,
okay.
we do have some wells in there.
Specifically, we
Yes,
have
there's a
wells
special use.
because of the special use permit that the county
We do.
granted.
We do.
My suggestion is, as we look at our ordinance within the county and the unincorporated area, that maybe we outreach to the local communities who potentially, by trying to bypass our authorities in the unincorporated areas, they annex into a village with the understanding that maybe we'll give you a tipping fee or something. They give them some kind of plausible. So I think that, educating our local city governments, saying, listen, why don't you guys pass an ordinance or enter into an intergovernmental agreement with us to basically stop this thing so Will County can become isolated, that we have groundwater monitoring at any new facility. I've been thinking about this for a while because I know it's one of your passions. And so, I think it's something that, if we can't skin the cat one way, then we need to say, I'm not going to suggest that all villages and municipalities would get on board, but it's something we could pull together at this level at the county and say, as an umbrella, we'd like to see you pass ordinances that require, if you have a facility within your jurisdiction of a demolition, that you have groundwater monitoring. And I think, if we don't have success in Springfield, we can, because Will County is unique because we have so many facilities, and we also have so many, we're dependent on groundwater for our water. So.
We also have the most amount of legislators in the whole state that touch Will County, so let's get this done. Did you?
Yeah. Just real quick, this is not an old process, what's been going on with filling in the quarries. I mean, most of the south side of Chicago, I mean, Blue Island that's built on dumps. You have Marionette Park. I mean, there's houses in there that are built on pilings. You had one not too far from Halstead, from Comiskey Park, where it was dumps, where it was construction debris. That's basically what they dropped in, that type of thing like that.
I think Grand Park is basically a demolition.
Correct. It's an old process. So actually, I went to the hearings downstate, and downstate I actually sat through the hearings, and I listened to all the different waste haulers complaining, that this is going to infringe upon their business. So as far as the business community ever supporting this, I don't think you're ever going to see it. Anybody that's business friendly is not going to support this in the future. So, but we have something here. We have the loaded gun right now, and what it's called the north side of the Thornton Quarry. What they did over there, basically, that's open raw sewage that dumps into that side of the quarry. That's the deep tunnel project. Okay, what they did on that particular quarry is actually they drilled around the quarry and they grouted it in, okay? I'm scared to death where I live because basically the aquifers, if there's a process or a problem with this whole system, my well is going to be contaminated. Now, everybody knows that lives on a well in a rural area right now, currently, our well water is changing. It's not what it used to be. So again, I think that basically with that quarry up there, I mean, that should be the model for this. That should be, if there was a problem that they're dumping into this, the wastewater or the storm overflow out of the deep tunnel, and they impregnated this whole area with grout, apparently they do understand that water does travel out of there. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you're dumping in clean construction debris, and if that has oil products in it, fossil fuel products, whatever it is in there, that's going to leach out of there eventually. Because why would it leach out of one quarry and it's not going to leach out of another quarry? That doesn't make any sense. So I think that, you're absolutely right. If it is annexed into a municipality, I think that's the answer. That's the backdoor way to actually get this thing stopped. But again, I think if we're consistently remind our legislators of that north side of that quarry out there. And I think we actually need to move now to protect our residents as far as those on the rural area with well water right now, literally, because I think there's an impending danger on this. in other areas of the country, they actually contaminate the wells, and what it does is basically it condemns your property, you know, and either that or we're all gonna be drinking out of Lake Michigan, which I'm not a fan of either, but anyway, that's, I think you have a good direction on that. I think that's the way to actually do this, and I know
Well, I
your commitment to it is
it's worth effort to do a, you know, two-line approach to try Springfield was to try to pass legislation that's more restrictive. But more secondly is make sure that we get our communities involved, that they understand the problems. So if somebody doesn't knock on their door and say, listen, if we annex in, we're gonna give you so much per ton to take us in, and all of a sudden dollar signs, you know, we have to do some due diligence and making sure people realize the downside of not having these.
Just remember Ottawa Township, when they tried to annex in a garbage dumpster to the municipality, that's gonna be a whole other battle in itself.
What township?
Ottawa Township.
Ottawa?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make one other comment, as I was listening to Bob speak, it did remind me of, you know, our aquifers, our watersheds don't stop at the Will County line. I think we also need to tell those other counties, and some of those aquifers may travel all the way up to Wisconsin and come and filter down, that they have danger of contamination because it won't stop in Will County. I mean, maybe that's just a little more educational, or maybe getting a little bit more of a cantilever ourselves on what the watersheds are. The Thornton watershed goes.
Well,
It's a pretty large one. But my point is that the water, underground water, doesn't stop the Will County boundary.
Well, if you look at the big quarries that sit into mine and Chuck's district, and like right over there, that's only, what, maybe 5 miles away from the DuPage border.
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
It's right onto that border, and, you know, right now, we had that deal where they were concerned about the crushing. Well, that's not, it's what's going into our water, because once that gets into the water tables, there's no getting out. This becomes, you know, and you don't want to be this going, oh, you guys were right. Well, we're not here to be right, we just want to get to do the right thing.
If I can give one other example, you know, we had that situation in Exelon where there was contamination in the underground. And I think they originally thought, well, this will be a very difficult cleanup. We'll pump all the water out, you know, get the premium plume out. My understanding is, and maybe you know, that they're still working. Years later, they're still working. They don't have it totally clean. So, you know, once the underground water is contaminated, it is not an easy cleanup. And that's got to be almost 10 years now, Dean?
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think they still have it. They primarily have it clean, but they still have some contamination down there. So these are, once it's contaminated, it is not an easy fix, or maybe you don't fix it at all. So.
Yeah, so we have that, and then as well as with the recycling, the
Yeah.
electronic recycling.
I just wanted to make sure we added something.
Bring the microphone, Dean.
On there.
Oh, yes,
Oh, okay, sorry. Usually I don't need a microphone. Wow. But I think we should add in there that we should not have to pay for recycling of electronics. That's local government or our residents. Because there's a major trend right now. DuPage and some other counties, Kane, they're starting to charge $25, $35 per TV. It's just, I mean, why should we have to pay for it? It's been set up for years that it's the manufacturer's responsibility. So I really think we need to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, why should we be paying for this when it should be already taken care of? I mean, maybe there's another way to slice it. Maybe there's a way to figure out how to do that so that the manufacturers can get more funds. I mean, we've been talking about using some other funds, EPA funds that are designated for recycling to go towards that. So maybe that might be an answer to help pay for it, but I don't think our residents or the county should be paying for that.
Thank you, I saw that, and I was thinking the same thing, like, what, are we throwing in the towel?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think it's bad, so. And then just one other thing, which I know we're not on, but our landfill, we generate electricity, there. And ComEd has the right to refuse net metering. We've been talking about having our electric bills and our energy bills depleted to as far as we can. If we could work out something where we could use that energy and apply it to our electric bill, which is called the virtual net metering, but it's allowed, but ComEd refuses to allow it because they're allowed to say no. We need to change that. They shouldn't be allowed to say no to a savings to the government or to our residents. So I think it shouldn't be up to them to do that.
Can we do something like that? Can we get
Yeah.
legislation?
It'd just be
What do you-
a minor change in the RPS, renewable portfolio standard. So,
I like the minor things that we're talking about here.
yeah, no big deal, right, Brent? Yeah.
And before the legislature works.
You want to-
Exactly.
Sorry, anyway, I just wanted to make
Okay,
sure we
I
knew
mean,
about that
obviously,
one.
we can discuss,
Yeah.
we might be better off talking directly with ComEd about our.
Wait,
Then you- what would she-
strike that.
You gotta filter this before you come up here.
Well, I sort of, I thought we should at least talk about it anyway. All right, so,
Whoa, never mind.
doesn't mean you have to do it. Anyway.
Great. Thank
So
you.
I guess we
Yeah.
kind of know. Did you want any feedback on those two things that we did agree about? to
That
send?
would be
Okay,
wonderful.
send you something? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'll send you a little extra. I'll talk to Brent too about
Yeah.
it, make sure.
Yeah, and Brent will
All right.
talk about the other issue, yeah, after. Yes.
Thank you, Suzanne. Along the lines of the recycling, and then it's the same thing as anything else, that if there is legislation that actually does put a fee on there as far as resource recovery of the TVs or recycling, that we have to make absolutely positively sure that it can't be swept into something else. So
Right.
basically, it's the same thing as the Safe Road Amendment. Dollars collected for the roads are collected for roads. Dollars collected for recycling are dedicated strictly to recycling, because what is being done is basically through the public right now is they're ended up paying for the disposal of the TV anyway if they're charging. So if they collected a fee twice, collect. And in the past, basically, if they've collected, in the past for this, and it was supposed to be dedicated to that, and it's not, that's problematic. And recycling is everybody's issue, and it's everybody's responsibility, so across the board, so.
The problem we have, let me reemphasize on the cost bearing. When this program was started back in, whenever it was put into place, we had a very large marketable recycling market from the products that were recycled. That, in our discussions over the last 2 years, and I'm trying to come up with a short-term solution, a long-term solution, that was changed dramatically because the recyclers weren't at the table in the first go-around because they refused to be at the table because they were trying to play both sides of the government versus the Illinois Manufacturers Association who were paying it. So they tried to stay out of it. And in doing so, it created a problem because the market is no longer there to gain good, valuable stuff out of the recyclable goods. So that's why we've seen a diminish of recyclers. There for a while, there's popping up all over the state, and no longer they're there. So we do have an inherent problem. There's a cost, and the manufacturer saying we're willing to pay to a certain point. And there is a window of the larger TVs, and that probably within the next 5 years.
Yeah, there is, but I know we've been saying that for a while, but if you see, people are buying the really big TVs still, and those actually cost a lot of money to recycle, because there's probably about 20 screws in them that you have to undo. So as much as we want to say, yeah, it's the leaded glass and it's the old TVs, I don't think 100% of that's, yes, I agree with you, a good chunk of the problem, but I don't want to say there's never going to be an issue with TVs, because we're buying more TVs and they're harder to dismantle than they have been. So that's only, I saw it firsthand down in Indianapolis where we send our material, and they showed how long it took versus the other one, they just shove it in and cut it out and it goes to recycling right away. Well, this one, the guy has to have a screw automatic gun, and it takes them a while to take that out, so you have to pay for that labor.
My point is,
Yeah.
I think that's my point, is that we're seeing a change in the system, what we originally, as all legislation never stays forever, it has to be either tweaked or changed. We're going to continue, we've had a meeting actually here.
Yes, it was recently.
Recently, a couple weeks ago here in this room, with all the stakeholders from around the state. And I wouldn't say we made progress, but it wasn't, there's some ideas being floated around. And what we're seeing is certain communities are already taking this upon themselves to charge their residents a fee to recycle. Plainfield's for one is charging $1 per month on the water bill. You can call them up anytime, and I think Bolingbrook's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I've been following it everywhere.
There are
King County
more
just did
curbside-
something.
More curbside programs, so we're facing that dynamics too, which ultimately
I know Lake
hurts
County's been super aggressive.
the drop-offs or the underserved sites.
But that's okay, we've done this before. We've complemented whatever the private sector does. If they're not servicing, not every hauler is gonna offer that service. And not every community wants to pay the $1.25 per month. So, and it's year to year. So next year, Waste Management or Groot or whoever is offering it may say, I don't wanna do it. It's not working for us. So we fill in where they don't. But I still think with, a good chunk of our unincorporated still not getting that service, we need to make sure there's some in those areas. Yes, we don't focus drop-offs in Bolingbrook if there's curbside pickup. We put it where there isn't,
Right.
and then we help those people.
Well, and I know you worked really close with Naperville, Dean. I know
Yes.
that they've been wonderful in trying to help, and they could not say enough about how Will County has really stepped up
Sure.
and is trying to do something out there, so that is being noticed. Do you have, so you guys are ready, are you starting to schedule these calls? Because I know you spent quite some
No,
time.
it's been an ongoing process.
It's still been going?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like every few weeks or every month.
Really?
There's conference calls and there's.
And they're this
communication
interesting?
meetings.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, you want to make sure it stays alive and that we have a good plan, and we're talking to the manufacturers, because once we stop talking to them, we don't know where they're coming from.
I-
Representative
And the
Gates
retail.
is still kind of
Yeah.
leading the charge, and she was the
Is
one I
there
called
other
the
counties
meeting.
that are on these calls?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had everybody.
But
We
there's
have
probably 20
downstate.
counties.
I always think we're just doing everything, but I guess
No.
there's other counties that.
No, there are, but then we don't like the charging part. Well, that's very disappointing.
Thank you for saying, I had the same
Yeah.
feeling when I read
So,
that.
yeah.
No, that's excellent. All right.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Bob, Concho, do you have anything from the sheriff that you guys have been talking about, legislation that,
Not really. Everything, we're gonna go back and discuss this next week. The only other thing we had is the inspection of trucks. We were
yes,
discussing that
that's
at one
what,
time.
can you explain, can you come up here real quick, Bob? I know you love that so much. Be on the spotlight, there you go, exhale.
Does he have a gun?
He does, he's holding. Don't tell Steve again.
Don't worry, Steve's got a gun.
Okay, this is really good. We had actually on the federal, when we had spoke with Senator Kirk's office, we were discussing this, and Bob went into a little bit more detail, but on a local, I think we can as well kind of run with this, correct?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how the law is structured, but right now the state police are the only people who can inspect trucks and put them out of service when, for tires, for brakes, or for other issues on the trucks. So we were looking to see if we could do something at the county level where it didn't go down to the local levels for the police. So it does take a long time to go through that school. I believe it's 5 or 6 weeks to learn the different requirements for in the trucking industry. So.
Now, is there also something we were discussing, and I did notice that it was the other of inspecting these big trucks for, when we were talking, like I said, it was more so on the federal, but like drug transportation or any of that in the modals of, is there anything on the local, or is that just kind of a federal?
That mostly is done through specific groups like MEG Group, Metropolitan Drug Enforcement Group, or the DEA, or other groups like that. We do have people in those units right now.
that have gone, and there's nothing onto the local that would be able to help assist her again in that, because it's just, I mean, listening to you a couple months ago when we had that call, it's bothered me ever since, with our very busy intermodal as we speak. And, we're talking, everyone knows, the whole slang of like 55H highway, and they have but all these trucks coming in and having these drugs on there, like, do they, how they get inspected, or you could, pulling over, any suspicion, so we were kind of more into that into the federal, but I didn't know possibly onto the local. But that's also for like you were saying with the brakes or anything else, to do that on the local side would be.
Yeah, I think having, I agree with that. Deputy said it'd be very hard to get it down to the local level. We wouldn't want, because of the issues we've had in the past of I wouldn't say overzealous, but county sheriff department would be appropriate agency to be able to handle.
Right, the county. When I say local, I'm saying county, not just state. Right, I'm sorry, let me clarify that. Right, no, county, not local. Local, municipality, no way.
No, because I think the time and effort could be put into it because of our unique situation with the intermodal and the interstates that we have here. We do have, I'm sure you've seen an increase in truck accidents and casualties because of vehicles that shouldn't be on the road. So
We contact the state police when we have a truck accident for an inspection on the vehicles.
Okay, so you're just wanting to have it as county should be able to do, instead of you having to reach out to the state.
Well, we currently
police.
have an overweight truck enforcement unit that's out there every day, and they do run across some issues on some of these trucks that we have to call the state police to put them out of service, basically. And what happens is they have to be repaired before they get back on the road.
So who would push on that? Who would push back?
Pushback would be the trucking association.
Oh.
Immediately. Sure. Big time.
Well, what, they want to be safer?
Yes, yes, they would.
No, I just thought all the trucks out of service.
That will be the first, and these type of things will always get pushback from the administrator, probably Illinois Chamber, or anybody that has, like you said, that moves goods or anything like that might be an opponent of this, but I think the safety guards have a pretty big weight here, so. Especially with some of the terrific accidents we've seen, whether it's being here or
That's what I'm
Indiana.
saying.
We've had some tremendously terrible accidents that we've seen. So, yeah, it's something worth exploring and seeing what we can figure out. I'm just telling you, the Truckers Association will be right away, probably, possibly the business groups might go back. I don't know that for a fact, but anybody that moves commerce.
Yeah, that's too bad. We should definitely, I see a little theme here, I think, between the Prories and what's going in, and as well now with the trucking of, safety and health. This all has to come first before any of these dollars, but that's not always the case. Sad. Steve?
I used to be a truck driver, so I know what goes on. Are you asking for us to do legislation county level to give you the permission to do the inspections and get it all done?
Yeah, it's right outside the state level.
Yeah, so why would the truck, so it's just someone else, they're gonna have that regardless. They would have, the state would be doing it or the county, so why would the trucking?
Well, what happens is the trucking companies don't know what the drivers do. That's the part of the problem. Like if your trailer brakes freeze up in the winter, they'll go out and let all the air out of the tanks so there's no trailer brakes. Well, the company don't know you did that. They just want to get the load off. You got truckers that come up from the southern border, they don't have any kind of regulations at all, and their trucks, God knows what's wrong with them, and they don't, they just keep operating. So if the state police are the only ones that can address the issue, it's not too good, because I remember some of the stuff that my boss would, I'd tell him, he said, get the load off. So you're driving the truck with flat tires.
Oh. So you and Grant.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that go on that everyone denies, and it's really, really dangerous.
We can do fact check.
Well, let's look into this.
Fact.
Thank you,
Fact
Bob.
check. Fact check.
I knew you'd have something to protect us all. Serve and protect, right?
In real time.
All right. Is there anything else that, we got any FOIA?
I have a question for
I have a question for you. And this would, on the state level too, we have a big problem with fireworks in the unincorporated areas, and it's getting worse, okay? Everybody knows it's against the law, they're not supposed to do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as something stiffer on a state level, because it's getting out of hand. People are buying $2,000–3,000 worth of fireworks and shooting them off. I mean, you don't need to go to town anymore to watch fireworks. The problem is that when you're a livestock owner, you have livestock, and also recently in the parade in Beecher, they were lighting up fireworks, and we have a large horse community out there, and it's very, very, very dangerous. Okay, I mean, when you startle that animal out there, and everybody you talk to says, yeah, that's illegal, they can't do that. But we have no enforcement mechanism anymore. Apparently, if you correct me if I'm wrong, basically the ticket for it is probably meaningless now, you know, as far as if you do write them a ticket, so maybe that's something that we could actually look at, so.
I don't know if there'd be legislation that we would do. I think that would almost be something judicial or more of an ordinance.
We do have an ordinance violation that we can write, but we're one of the few states that still outlaws fireworks.
Right, and there's been actually a push on the opposite of actually.
Yeah, I know, but
fireworks.
it's become a
Who's pushing
problematic,
that?
so.
The firework makers?
We've worked with the sheriff's department over in Franklin Square.
Well-
And you guys have been very responsive.
Correct.
Well, what we cracked down on was basically the people who were setting up along the roads, so we stepped up the enforcement in Franklin Township, we got incorporated area of Franklin Township. By the time people didn't get it's a violation, they're going to take it. Haven't eliminated it, especially but it's pretty much brought really to except for like maybe the 4th of July itself, it's pretty much reduced the use of fireworks in that area.
Like the week before, the week after now is a problem out. We have like a 3-week window
Well,
each year.
the other problem, Bob, is you run on that Indiana border. Go right
We're
over
gonna
the
build a
border.
wall eventually, so we're gonna get that done. in the-
Either that or you'll join Indiana, one or the other.
You wanted that highway to make it easier to get into.
I mean, we're gonna get Orland Park's gonna leave Cook County, you know, east of the move.
Oh, yeah, Orland Township.
Yeah, so, but
We're gonna build a wall after that too.
yeah,
So
yeah, so.
we're gonna get taken care of.
So, but my point is I think it's one of those
It's
tough.
gonna be a nice wall too.
I think it's one of those tough areas because it's, it's one of these violations that occurs like over a week period of time. It's not.
But there is legitimately, if you're an elected official, you will get call after call after call on it. And then if it's something that needs to be fixed, and your officers do a great job, they try to
But I don't think there's
mediate the
anything we can
situation,
do.
you know, because
There's
you got
nothing we
two
can do
parties,
on the
different
legislative
parties there,
side.
but
No, you're absolutely.
legislatively, I didn't know that they were actually trying to change it.
And we have one more question, I think, time for one more, real
Mine's
quick.
not on fireworks. I'm
Okay.
actually just wondering about the process of finalizing things, because when I look at the Weber Road language, it lacks, like the rest of the agenda really states that Will County supports, it opposes legislation. But to me, it doesn't have that piece in there where someone thumbing through it, scanning it, really knows what Will County is asking for with Weber Road and 55. And everything else does a beautiful job. I mean, if you're
Well, we
scanning
have
it,
that.
Yeah, but
We can almost, we're doing it.
Right.
Right.
Those of us on the committee might know, but I'm saying if you look at the language in the agenda, it lacks. We both read it and had the same impression. You wanna?
On all the other line items, it basically states Will County opposes or Will County supports. And in the language for Weber Road, there's no position from Will County. That's what he's saying.
Well, Bruce, Bruce, look, he's doing back,
I'm looking.
taking notes.
What
Yep.
page are we talking?
Oh, here, it's right here.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. It's already, that's what I was just gonna say, we have all the funding, like, I can be off, we did it, we accomplished yet another thing.
Yeah,
Well, we had the quick take legislation, which at the time, when the agenda was formed, we talked about going and proposing quick take legislation, so we didn't have that particular piece within that section, is that what we were going to do. and we ended up introducing the quick take legislation for the county portion of the project and succeeded. We got signed, so they're moving forward with the project. I mean, that's probably, if you're going to identify something in a road project with the county, of course, you support adding lanes to I-80 and I-55, which basically we have nothing to do with. But on a county project, if it deems something with quick take or something that would require legislation, that would be, or funding, that would be the only things that we could actually add to that in a more clarification point when you have your agenda, if that's what you're asking.
But Frank, just Weber Road, when you talk to legislators, they know what Will County wants Weber Road done. I don't think there's anybody in the state of Illinois that doesn't know that Will County wants Weber Road completed. There are many pieces to Weber Road. And so I guess I'm fearful that we're going to think that we need to get into such detail. We need to design a road in our legislative agenda. I think we clearly sent the message that Weber Road is one of our number one priorities.
Like I said, we've
And this
accomplished
has
it.
been done.
Right.
We're done. Like, this was on our agenda, we did
If I'm
it.
not mistaken, talking about any future, if we identify a county project, what do we want to do with that project? I
Okay.
agree with you. Most of the time, like Homewood, let's go back one step, Renwick and Weber Road. Maybe not too many people realize that we need a quick take because we had 80 pieces of property to acquire. You know, most legislators might not have understood that. Weber Road, yes, because it's such a disaster. It's well known throughout the northern part of the county. So everybody knew that. But say, for example, another county highway, you might not exactly know what we're asking for. So if you want some specific details, or maybe we can suggest that we might need some help with it. And most of the time, legislative-wise, it's either funding or acquisition project. And we have to go through a quick take process, which we use very limited, and very high-ranking projects. You know, maybe we do point that out, but our job is when we talk to our legislators to make sure as we're going through this to make them understand what we're going to ask. And they knew we were going to ask for a quick take on Weber Road.
So basically, Beth, if you were going to go in and lobby a state rep, you can talk to Bruce. He can give you a detail, maybe a sheet on it then. And that's basically what this does, is identify it as one of the issues.
But I think that's just saying for everyone outside the committee.
Yeah,
She's not
maybe
saying it
maybe
yourself.
we like it.
Thank you. Nothing about detailed road plans. All I meant was everything else says a really clear statement. We support, and this was just kind of in there. And so we all know we so want Weber Road to go, but what's the purpose of it being in the agenda? When you read it, it's not as clear as every other item, which is crystal clear.
Is it
So
not
that
going to
was
say because
my-
we accomplished our mission complete?
Can I make comments, please, if I could?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had an explanation of Weber and 55 because of the scope of the project, the size of the project. We're going for quick take legislation. Just to give an explanation of the project. Now, beyond that, at the end of the agenda, there's the Will County road projects. And we list in every representative district a project. We do this every year. And in the 98th district, we put that project, $70 million. So we gave an explanation of the 55 and Weber up ahead of that, but then we listed that project as one that we're asking for funding.
Annette, did you have a question
does that
about
answer that?
You had a question about,
Oh.
you know, Bruce, while you're up, Annette had a question about the projects in the back.
Yeah.
I was just asking how these projects were determined, and I brought up the Bruce Road Cape Farm.
Mhm.
Why that wouldn't have been in here, is that just because?
The
of
reason that one is not in there is because we are still in phase one at this point. And that is fully funded, the phase one. Once we get design approval and we start moving forward to phase two, the plans, the specs, things like that, we will include it in there. But at this point in time, we aren't, because it's fully funded at this point in time. We
Okay,
haven't
so we're
moved
not.
to the next phase.
Thank you, yeah, that was a good question, and I thought. Okay,
Okay.
is there anything else? All right, of the new business. I know, they're all,
Your next meeting occurs on the election. Suzanne, do you intend to have a meeting on Brady?
what's the feeling of our committee? Oh, they're all using the restroom. Okay, so the important ones are left. I mean, it's not that it's elected, I just don't know, I mean, right now, and that was one thing where I wanted to set the priorities, not set, but to start planting these seeds of like, let's get this going, let's have this dialogue open. We're talking about having, I mean, it has nothing so much to do with it being election day, but I think we're gonna need, you know, with the different department heads and everyone to kind of go through and see what they need, so that'll give some extra time, and we don't have, with not being in session and a month before the election, there's not a lot going on. So as of now, no, there'd be no reason to even meet next month, even if we switch day, unless something does come up.
We have nothing in veto session that's going to be pertinent to the county at this time. The lame duck session is different than the veto session.
When is veto?
Veto, I don't have the dates with it.
A ballpark.
Usually
The end of November.
Usually, yeah, right around veterans.
Because of the election, though, I think I should know this, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But the veto items, there's not that much going on, but the lame duck session could, depending on the election outcome, could be exciting, or it could be typical lame duck session that we don't.
And what would that be about?
Well, that can go anywhere from the election on.
Yeah.
You know, it could go
Oh,
right to
you're
the
talking this
swearing
next
in,
2
swearing.
years.
No.
What are you saying?
Well, before
When's the
in,
swearing in? How about that? I'm
July
sorry.
11th or
I
12th or something
have
like that.
federal stuff going in my head. We do have something very big for that.
January 11th.
Exciting, yeah. So we don't really have anything even for lame duck, I mean, even though you need to be on your best for the fact that the blocking
I'm
thing.
just telling you that, you know, the November meeting's not important, the December meeting might be a little bit more important.
That's what I was looking for. Okay, I'm sorry, I was thinking something totally different.
The veto session is right around mid-November.
Yeah, they scheduled for the last third week of November, and I think the first week in December this year.
All right, yeah, I apologize. All these lame duck, veto. What is going on? Can we just all do this for the right reasons? Like how share the council.
Doesn't matter how you vote now. You can't get a little, you lost.
Right, yeah. Okay, so if we have nothing else, if we can have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?